Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising up every time we fail. That line hits different when you've lived it, not read it on a poster, not highlighted it in a book, lived it, felt it in your bones, felt it in the mornings you woke up ashamed, exhausted, and convinced you were broken beyond repair. Felt it in the nights you promised yourself never again, only to stumble back into the same cycle. Failure in recovery is not theoretical. It's personal, it's painful, and it's familiar. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. Failure is not the opposite of recovery. Giving up is. Failure is not the enemy. Silence is. Isolation is. The lie that says, you've messed up too many times, so you might as well stop trying, is the real killer. Because recovery has never been about perfection, not once. Recovery has always been about rising, again and again and again, no matter how many times you fall. If you're listening to this right now and you feel like you've failed, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not weak, you are not hopeless, and you are not done. You are still here. And that alone means something inside you refuses to quit. That spark may be dim right now. It may feel buried under regret, shame, and exhaustion. But it's there. And recovery begins the moment you decide to stand back up. Failure is part of being human. Every single person who has built a meaningful life has failed more times than they can count. The difference is not that they avoided falling. The difference is that they learned how to rise. Recovery is not a straight line. It's a brutal, winding road with setbacks, detours, and moments where you question everything. Anyone who tells you otherwise has either never walked it or is lying. Let's talk about the kind of failure no one likes to admit. The relapse that feels like it erases all your progress. The moment you look in the mirror and think, what's wrong with me? The phone call you're afraid to make. The trust you feel like you've destroyed beyond repair. That kind of failure can crush you if you let it define you, but it doesn't have to, because failure is information, not a verdict. It's feedback. It's a signal that something needs to change, not proof that you can't change. Recovery is built by people who fell and refused to stay down, people who learned to get uncomfortable, people who asked for help even when their pride screamed not to, people who understood that rising doesn't mean feeling strong. It means moving forward even when you feel weak, especially when you feel weak. There is a dangerous myth that recovery is about willpower alone, that if you just wanted it badly enough, you'd never fail. That is nonsense. Your recovery is about connection. It's about structure. It's about honesty. And yes, it's about getting back up when you fall again and again, not because it's easy, but because the alternative is losing everything that matters. Shame will try to convince you that your failures define you, that your past is your future, that you've already proven who you are. But shame lies loudly. Recovery begins when you stop letting shame write your story and start taking responsibility without self-destruction. Responsibility says, I messed up and I'm going to do something about it. Shame says, I messed up, so I am the mess. One of those leads to growth. The other leads to the grave. Rising after failure is an act of courage. It takes guts to admit you're struggling. It takes strength to say, I need help. It takes humility to listen instead of defend. And it takes discipline to keep showing up when motivation is gone. Recovery is not glamorous. It is gritty. It is uncomfortable. And it is worth it. Every time you rise after falling, you build something inside yourself that cannot be taken away. You build resilience. You build wisdom. You build proof that you are capable of change. Each failure you survive becomes evidence that you can survive the next challenge too. This is how real confidence is formed. Not from never failing, but from knowing you can rise. Let's be honest about something else. Recovery doesn't just change you, it changes how you see the world. You start to notice how many people are quietly fighting battles you can't see. You develop compassion, not because you're told to, but because you've been there. You learn that strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like showing up to a meeting when you'd rather hide. Sometimes it looks like making a phone call you're terrified to make. Sometimes it looks like starting over from scratch. Starting over is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of commitment, a sign that you still believe your life has value, and it does. No matter how many times you've failed, no matter how far you've fallen, no matter how many bridges you think you've burned, as long as you're breathing, there is still a path forward. Recovery is not about erasing your past. It's about using it, using the pain, using the mistakes, using the lessons you paid for the hard way. Your story doesn't disqualify you, it equips you. The things you've survived give you insight, empathy, and strength that can change lives, including your own. There will be days when rising feels impossible, days when the weight of your past presses down so hard you can barely breathe. On those days, don't focus on forever. Focus on now, on the next right action. Drink some water, make the call, get to the meeting, take the walk, do the small thing. Rising doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks painfully ordinary, and that's okay. The world loves highlight reels. Recovery is built in the unseen moments, the quiet decisions, the daily choices no one applauds, the internal battles you fight when no one is watching. That's where real transformation happens. Not overnight, not magically, but gradually, through consistency and courage. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to feel discouraged, but you are not allowed to give up on yourself. Not after everything you've survived. Not after every time you've risen before. Because you have risen before. Even if you don't give yourself credit for it, you're here, you're listening, you're still searching for something better. That matters. Failure is not the end of your story, it's a chapter, and chapters can end. You get to decide what comes next. You get to decide if this is the moment you stay down or the moment you stand back up. No one can do it for you, but you don't have to do it alone. Recovery communities exist because no one heals in isolation. We rise together. We borrow strength from each other when ours runs low. We remind each other who we are when we forget. And we hold space for the truth that falling does not erase our worth. If you've failed, welcome to the human race. If you've failed in recovery, welcome to recovery. The only people who don't fail are the ones who never try. And trying again after failure is one of the bravest things a person can do. So stand up, not because you feel ready, not because you feel confident. Stand up because your life is worth fighting for. Stand up because your story isn't finished. Stand up because rising is how glory is built, one imperfect step at a time. And you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the next step, then the next. And when you fall again, because you might, you rise again. That is recovery. That is strength. That is hope. And if no one has told you this today, hear it now. You are not beyond redemption. You are not beyond healing. You are not beyond hope. Your greatest glory is still ahead of you, not because you'll never fail again, but because every time you fall, you choose to rise. Rise today, rise tomorrow, rise as many times as it takes.